Thanks, guys, for that first carrier update of the day. We've got Eric Kulisch on the line. He's going to be checking in with us here in just a few minutes, talking all things air cargo as we usually do with him. And the exciting thing about Eric that we're going to be talking about is actually a little bit of shenanigans that went on at the Los Angeles airport here earlier in the week. So, Eric, are you on with us, FreightWaves, now this morning?
Hey, I'm on from triple-digit, 115-degree Portland, Oregon, Vancouver, Washington area, smashing all kinds of records.
You know, we talk about the Southeast being hot. I am not envious of your guys' temperatures at all right now. And you guys aren't prepared for that kind of heat either. Definitely not something that we want to be dealing with up there. Eric, tell us, is the air cargo market still just as hot as the temperatures are up in Portland right now?
Pretty much so. All as usual, it always depends on the lane and the region. Everything is just like they say, all politics is local. So, it varies. But, the overall, there's just so much demand and capacity still 10, 12% below, pre-crisis levels. And so there's just unprecedented volumes and it's tough getting planes. Capacity. Out of China, Northeast and Southeast China, exports are starting to pick up. Some of that demand is mode conversion from ocean because you have the Yantian port slowdown where ships are waiting for a week or two to get a berth because of the COVID outbreak on the docks. And so there's been a huge backlog there, and a lot of people have switched to air. The market out of Taiwan, which is usually very strong, rates have dropped about $3 to $4 a kilogram. They've had COVID outbreaks there, and so factories have slowed down production. And you've also had ships that have skipped Yantian port come to Taiwan, so that's taken some of the volume that might go by air. Some of those ships going in, but that should be picking up pretty soon. Southeast Asia capacity is very constrained right now, especially out of Indonesia. And in Europe, things are pretty good as far as supply and demand, but we expect more volumes to come with factories starting to reopen more as they loosen some of their COVID restrictions. But we're seeing it's kind of interesting. Some airlines have started to pull back on their passenger cargo only freighters that they did temporarily during COVID. So we're seeing a little bit of a pullback there as more airlines put planes back into regular passenger service. But again, it depends on the airline because some are still using those freighters or passenger freighters. Cathay Pacific in Asia said they're going to add more for the peak season. So it varies again by airline and region.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that about the capacity that's going on between the freighters and the passenger. Now, hopefully we're going to have more and more international travel open up, right? Is that what they're gearing up for now, putting that back in, bringing those or slowing down the conversion? Are they slowing down the conversion or converting back to passenger planes?
Yeah, I mean, what happens is the planes that were just flying without passengers and were kind of handed to the cargo departments to run and, just using the bellies will now, go back into passenger service. But, those routes, if they're international, may not be, the load factors with passengers could be very low. You could have 30 passengers or 50 passengers on a big wide body. But, if it's a good cargo route, it's basically a cargo only flight in a lot of ways. In a few airlines, as you recall, went the extra step and took out the seats in the main cabin to add some extra capacity. So, in a couple occasions, some airlines are starting to put those seats back in. So, reconvert them back.
Eric, when it comes to betting on this cargo market staying hot, FedEx is one of those companies that is really putting a lot of their chips in the pot. We brought the news about them purchasing, or their plans to purchase, what was it, about 70-ish more Airbus carriers? Talk to us a little bit about that.
They exercised an option actually for 20 new Boeing 777 freighters. So these are some really wide body planes. the cargo community loves them. They just can carry so much cargo in their belly, even as passenger planes. But FedEx will use them as freighters, so even more capacity. I forget exactly how many tons they can carry, but it's a lot. So they've exercised this option for 20. They see e-commerce continuing to boom. Their domestic package volumes are projected to increase significantly, and I think they said in their last quarter, they had $1 billion in extra, parcel and e-commerce business out of Asia and Europe. So it's booming worldwide for them.
So, Eric, let me ask you this. You've got different airports changing some of their infrastructure, right? And you can talk a little bit about JFK as well, adding cargo capacity. Are you seeing this as a discovered inefficiencies because of the pandemic and the change, or investment in what they see as growth, sustained growth in air cargo due to these capacity crunches?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, these are, long-term investments, so they're looking towards the future. But, I'm sure the pandemic solidified the thoughts that air cargo would be, if there were any doubts about how quickly or whether air cargo would grow sufficiently, I think the pandemic's kind of erased that. But I think a lot of these plans have been kind of in the works for many months and years and are finally starting to come to fruition. And it's about time in places like JFK, because they have mostly antiquated cargo facilities that are just really, narrow cross docks back from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and can't really efficiently handle today's volumes. You have the X-ray screening and other security systems in place. You can't stage the freight very well, break it down. So this is welcome capacity. It'll increase the flow and volume. And I think other airports, you're starting to see other airports also investing right about now. And there's been a lot of complaints that airports are congested and haven't invested. And slowly you're starting to see the logjam break at JFK. We heard about Philadelphia a week ago. Chicago's O'Hare's got some investment coming. Atlanta as well.
Talk to us a little bit about where the funds for this investment for JFK are coming from. I know you mentioned in your story it was kind of a combination effort of those agencies around New York, correct?
Yeah, good question. I think in JFK's case, it's kind of like a public-private partnership. I mean, they're basically leasing they're not going to build it themselves. They're leasing the property to a large real estate developer or airport developer that does a lot of cargo facilities, and they will build it, and then they will lease it out and rent it themselves, sublease it. So the airport will get their money from the developer, and then the developer will lease it out, find the cargo tenants, the ground handlers, and so forth to run it.
Interesting. Eric, you mentioned security updates there at JFK. Talk to us a little bit about LAX, what's going out there. It's kind of like the Keystone Cops over there. Cars driving around and gold bars flying out the back of it. What's happening there? Can you talk about a couple of things that are happening there?
Yeah, it's just interesting. I'm sure it's just a little string of bad luck, but it's kind of fun to point the light at it. But yeah, last week FedEx, there was a pretty severe security breach at Los Angeles International Airport. Some person, a mentally unstable person, drove their car right through the chain link fence right next to the FedEx Express facility, drove right by a huge FedEx plane and raced out onto the runway, chased by LA Airport police, and did donuts basically on two major runways, which are, planes are landing like every minute. And then I was watching the video and noticed the plane going right by the cargo area and drove right by a Mexican carrier called Mass Air. Their plane was parked there. So, luckily it all ended. They surrounded the vehicle and ended it without incident. But that was an interesting security breach. And then, a couple of weeks ago, I wrote about a shipment of gold bars, like, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of dollars of gold bars shipped from Asia to New York. They stopped in LA, had an overnight stay. The Brinks truck came to pick it up, but somehow misplaced one of the boxes, and some employees at one of the ground handling companies found the box and made off with 4 bars of gold, and they got caught like the next day. They were trying to bury it in their backyard and handing it out to friends, but
wasn't he texting? He was texting the other employees saying, "Hey, what do you want to do with these gold bars?" or something. It's funny.
Right. Yeah, the one guy found it and told his buddies, "Hey," so they were like trying to text, so they me to like get the handoff of the gold to the other guy.
Unbelievable. I remember when doing donuts on the runway was just good, clean fun. Huh, Eric?
Not every criminal can be a smart criminal, right?
That's right.
Eric, what do you have working going up for the next week or so?
Well, I've got a couple of stories. There's a small airport in Louisiana that's, speaking of airport investments, it's an old World War II Air Force base. They don't have any real cargo facilities. It's a small airport, but they're trying to attract some people there, so they're doing a small speculative investment in a warehouse. So I'm going to write about that, and try to see if there's any market there for them. Are they really have any? Will they have any luck attracting anybody?
Great, Eric. Thank you for joining us this morning. Always informative and funny. We appreciate that on FreightWaves Now here. Have a great day and happy 4th of July weekend.